You're going up.
All right, let's do it live on a Thursday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z from the home office. You remember when Letterman would do this from the home office in Sioux City, Iowa, or Grand Rapids, Michigan? He would just make it up every time when they would do that. Do you remember this? The top 10 list. How you doing? How's the throat?
I mean, you're hearing it.
Oh, baby.
It's,
oh, baby.
What the hell is this? This is not the video.
Oh, yeah, Gibby's back,
that
too.
You sent me.
Gibby's back, too.
This is the audio I sent you.
No, it's
Listen,
not.
Gibby, we can't argue with him. I think his voice is on a pitch count. Everything he say has to matter.
Back and already hating. I'm out here doing, a yeoman's effort yesterday.
It was a yeoman's effort.
Because you weren't there, and I couldn't leave my boy Bo alone, and we got through it.
I would have found
and now here I am
someone else
again.
to fill in.
There's no one worthy. There's no one worthy, Gibby.
I'm aware
stop
of
it,
this,
Gibby.
but yeah,
Gibby, let me tell
we
you something.
do have other options.
Why do I not see you on the Zoom? Oh, there he is. There he is. Finally. Hey.
Gibby, what would you say when people describe, like, silk? What is, like, the number one thing that they would say about silk?
I don't know.
What do they say about silk? I'm asking you a question.
Smooth.
Smooth. That's how the show ran while you were down in Florida. Give it very
It did.
smooth.
The G-Man,
No hate coming
G-Man
from the
crushed
back
it,
room.
minus
it was
the little
just.
snafu on Friday.
Oh, he's back. We're so beyond that. We're
What
so
a
beyond
setup.
that.
What a setup.
We're so beyond that. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. I'm glad that tickled you, Bo.
I like that. Yeah, that's nice.
G-Man's like,
You do
screw
look.
you,
You
buddy.
do look good in tan, though, Gibby. I'll give you that. You look fantastic.
Oh, he's all, boy, he looks great. There's
so
a great
I did
hue to him.
I did a great job trying not to get burned, and then, like, yesterday, I was in the pool for, like, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because for 2 days, we couldn't go in the pool. Like, it was actually pretty chilly.
Yeah. No, you got a nice.
So
there's a
I
little.
come
There's a little
out-
red in there, but that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, correct. And I am
Today's
literally
red is tomorrow's beautiful bronze.
Ugh. We're like waiting for our flight, delayed, of course.
Duh.
And my wife looks at me and she goes, "What the hell happened to you? Why do you look like a traffic light?" I'm
No,
like,
you're
"What are you
not that
talking
red.
about?" And she's like, "Your head is totally red." I'm like,
Nah.
At least you're not Stuart Sinky though. Like you're one color.
"Yes."
Do you know? Who didn't have to worry about any time in the pool? All of us.
None of us give it. Yeah.
Yeah,
seriously.
there was no time. No
I'm
pool
not,
time.
I'm not here to rub that in because last night was pretty rude awakening. Coming home.
Let me tell you something.
Having to chip through an inch and a half of ice just to get in my car to get home.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
It's great.
Let me tell you something. So you guys know, like a few weeks ago in the thick of it, when my furnace went kaput, and so I had to get a new furnace. So I got a new furnace, and at the time, for whatever reason, my old humidifier that was on the furnace, it also was garbage. So today, finally, the great folks at a New Image Heating and Cooling came back out, and they got a humidifier on my blower. I was operating between 15 and 19% humidity in my house, which is apparently not good.
That's not where you want to be.
Could have contributed to where I am now. So now we're back at 35%. There's moisture in the air. It's a real delight. So that this winter, dude, I'm on record, and I know I'm a prisoner of the moment right now, but I'm on record as saying I think it might be the worst since I've lived here. Not in terms of like blizzards and snowfall, but in terms of just continuous cold and snow and or ice on the ground from Jan 1 through now, which it has been 100% continuous. Today's February 20th, if my math's right.
You are. Your math is correct. It is the worst. It's the worst. I've been here since 07. It's the worst one since 07, since I've been in Ohio. It's not particularly close. You're right. It's the sustained that's the problem. There hasn't been a let-up, and it was really nice right around Christmas. It was pretty temperate, although we wanted the snow then. And then that next week it set in, and it's been this way ever since. And the thing that really sucks about it is you get like a great many things, this incredible cold, but then usually you get like what happened over the weekend where we had that snowy rain mess. So then there's that ice layer that goes on top, and it just wreaks havoc on everything.
I am very happy to tell you guys, though, that pack your swimsuits and whatnot, because in Indy for us, we're going to be in the upper 40s.
Oh, baby.
47.
Thank God.
52, 41, 46. A little bit of rain on Thursday, but other than that, it should be quite lovely there.
Does our Motel 6 have an outdoor pool we could hit?
I hope so. I'm ready.
Be nice. Nice.
It's a rooftop.
Get a rooftop at Motel 6, get a little pool.
According to
pool
my
action.
weather service, we will not reach our high between now and March 6th, which is
Yeah, a couple weeks.
2 weeks from today. The high we will hit will be on Monday the 24th of 43, and then we will go back on starting on the back into the 20s and 30s. So there's no
no reprieve
I
there.
remember a few years ago on St. Patty's Day.
I remember this day vividly.
Might be 10 years ago even.
No, I was doing
was-
the show with you. It was 70. It was in the 70s.
Well, there's
yeah.
a year like one year where it was definitely pre you and I doing the show together, where it was like 80, and I was golfing.
Yeah.
So
that ain't
I-
happening.
There was a February. Was it last year or the year before? I was in
Yeah, maybe it was
Florida,
some
and it
beautiful
was
days.
just as
Oh,
warm.
that was last year,
Yeah,
I think.
it was just as warm in here as it was in Florida.
Yeah. Do you just from the golf course perspective, the amount of time, the amount of sun it's going to require to burn this off?
Yes,
Because remember, it rained all fall, so like the ground is right now it's a ice cube, but then underneath it it's just sponge. It was just water
Yes.
forever. Like you're going to be cart paths only, baby, until June.
Man. You're gonna have to.
That's where you're
I
at
do
on that.
not adhere.
You have to pick that ball clean, baby.
Yeah, you are. You could get a little bit chunky. Did you see? Gibbe? How was the vacation? Did you enjoy yourself? in the
It
sun?
was
You
good.
look
It was
great.
good. There was
Sun's
there was definitely some. It was a hands-on. It was a work vacation a little bit. So
Yeah.
the needed to do a few things with the in-laws' place. A little hurricane cleanup from last fall. A couple other little things that needed to do in opening up. But again, like. There was work to be done and a couple hours a day of enjoyment and fun. But again, I'm in shorts, so
Yeah.
I didn't really care. Like,
Yeah. I mean, the picture you sent us from the golf course didn't look too shabby, Gibby.
Yeah,
no,
like a win.
But that was a day like couldn't go in the pool. It was 53 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
65 in the sun's plenty.
That's all you
65,
need.
sure. By 3 o'clock, yeah, I got done with the golf. Yeah, I could go to the pool, but couple libations in, and the father-in-law wants to go to the pub. Happy hour, buddy.
It's go time.
Let's go.
Go time.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
go time. All right, we've got a little football to discuss here. From Cleveland.com, Greg Newsome would love a contract extension, but acknowledges he's got to stay healthy. Here's the quote from Greg: "This is the place that drafted me. I don't think we're closer than I think we're closer than people think. Honestly, a lot of people saying there's no way, but I think we are. I definitely would like to sign long term, but there's still that thing. In order to help this team, I've got to be on the field a little bit more." So there you go.
It's true. Got to stay healthy. Got to make impactful plays, but certainly a solid player.
Yeah,
I mean, we are in a good place, and we've got the young corners. We're also not in a place where we can keep creating holes. I think for Greg right now, honestly, if the Browns were to extend him, you're saying we've seen some really good stretches of play.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably get him at a discount coming off of last year and the injury and all of that, and so maybe you do extend Greg Newsome. I think that you can never have enough good corners. The Browns right now, I think, have 3 of them. I really do expect MJ to bounce back. I think he went through a lot last year, and was shaken at times by what his performance on the field that was not up to his standard, but finished the year very strong, and I think he's extremely motivated to never have to feel that way again. So it's an interesting situation. I mean, he's in the 5th year of his 5th-year option. Talking about Greg,
Yep.
so
yeah.
This is time certainly that the Browns could do that, and that would also provide some salary cap relief to them this year, because if they were able to sign him to extension, they could kick the. I think I'll pull up the number right now, but I'm pretty sure he's at like 11-ish on that 5th-year option. Let's see. But they would be able to, if they were to not restructure him, sign him to extension, they'd be able to kick that forward. So he's $13,377,000 fully guaranteed.
Yeah. What do you? I think the other thing that is, this is such
If they reach just real quick, if they extended him now, they could probably end up saving about $10 million on the cap pushed forward. Obviously, he's going to get that money, but that's what an extension could do in terms of his contract.
This is such a there are so many decisions. It'd be so fascinating when we do get to the combine. We know that I'm not crazy about it over there, but so curious to see and I'm not expecting that we're going to get. I mean, obviously Kevin and Andrew will play it very close to the vest, not just with us, but with the media at large. But just so many questions about this offseason and the roadmap for it. And I know they know it. They wrote the roadmap, they drew the lines, and they charted the path. And now it's going to be about executing it through free agency, through the draft, through all of it. But there are so many monster decisions that have to be made this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
And that are going to determine the future of this franchise immediately in terms of next year. And if you listen to what Greg said here, when he says, I think we're a lot closer than people think. Well, you won 11 games last year, so it's not like it's that distant. We've been in this slumber for a half decade or anything like that. You were a playoff team a year ago, but at the same time, depending on what decisions are made, you can chart multiple different paths here, and we'll get a better feel for that next week.
Agreed. And, I am curious kind of how that's all going to play out, because they're going to be asked with the Myles thing and then with the quarterbacks, they're going to be asked a lot of very direct questions about the direction of this franchise. More so than I would say even in really probably in a long time, especially we haven't had a first-round pick in 3 years. All of a sudden we have been kind of an afterthought at the combine because we really weren't relevant in terms of where we were picking to. Now we're going to be one of the top topics, I believe, at the combine this year because of those things, and so that'll be very interesting. Kibbe, do we have any more insight as to this when these things will be going down?
I believe we'll get one of our figureheads on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. We will not have two in the same day. Hopefully, and I'm waiting confirmation, everything will happen while we are on the air.
That'd be nice.
Year, which would be great.
That'd be very nice for Bo and I's wake-up time on a Tuesday morning.
We'll get to that. That's off the air.
See how all that goes. But yeah, it is critical, and we'll get a little better feel of that next week at the combine. The other issue that is unresolved at the moment is the Myles Garrett situation. Diana Rossini was on the Rich Eisen show and was asked about the Myles situation. Here's what she had to say.
Yeah, I expect that to pick up, actually, over the next week or two, knowing that Myles Garrett's agent is going to be at the combine, talking to teams, talking to people around the league about what's going on. I can just tell you what I know at this point, and that's the Browns do not want to move him. They've gotten calls from teams in the NFC, they've gotten calls from teams in the AFC, and they've been told all the same thing. We're not moving him for now. So I have found the word for now interesting because the conversations I've had have been more, no, just kill the story. We're not trading him. It's over. Just stop. Myles is going to be in Cleveland. But for now, it makes it interesting.
Sure does. Now, obviously, that's Diana's reporting that she is hearing from other teams, not from our operation. Obviously, the operation here has been no. The for now part of it does add a little layer to it. The one thing that I think almost has to be the thing that's annoying to me about this is anytime anyone has this conversation about Myles, they neglect to mention how difficult it is to trade him and how punitive it is for the Cleveland Browns to trade him, even if they wanted to, which they don't. It's really hard.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing here is that, number one, it's not just, oh, man, we can, we have this very valuable player and asset who can actually, jumpstart our, let's call it our assets or ability to turn this thing around in the way that really very few non-quarterbacks could in terms of what they would fetch in a draft, in a trade scenario. But it is not easy at all to trade him at all. And so that is one of the reasons why, in addition to the fact that the Browns feel like probably, hey, we can get our quarterback. We've got Myles. Let's not do that. But what he said is, even with the cap going up, the Browns are operating as they are. So this is Joel Corey, who we've had on the show many times, a former agent, saying why it's tough to do that. The Browns are operating as a playoff team in terms of their contracts, but that's kind of the way that they've stuck everything forward, and the restructuring is very similar to Philly. On the other, Philly's won the Super Bowl and is hit on a lot of these things, and unfortunately the Browns have not, especially at the quarterback position. He said the Browns are not in the best position to absorb the $16.5 million increase in cap charges relating to Garrett. That's to trade him. So it's what he's going to get paid plus $16 million, and he doesn't play for you. So that's why he thinks it would be very, very difficult to envision this happening from either side. The Browns are in a very bad position to trade him, and there are a lot of challenges with the logistics of it, not to mention they don't want to trade him because he's
Myles
so
Garrett.
He's Myles Garrett. Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, when we talked about this in the moment, always a tricky talk, but we talked about this in the moment of like Super Bowl week and, a guy under contract, flirting with other teams and all of that. I don't know if you're not going to get that outwardly next week at the Combine. Conversation will be had. They'll be had over cocktails. They'll be had behind closed doors, conference rooms all over Indy. But in terms of the outward flirtation, that won't be happening next week at the Combine. But this is a monster. I'm sure we'll talk about this more tomorrow on the show, but this is a monster Combine in terms of the amount of big issues that are out there in the league. I mean, you just think about the rumors around Stafford. What is Pittsburgh doing at quarterback? What is Vegas doing at quarterback? Is there going to be a trade at the top? Will there be a consensus be built at the quarterback position with these two quarterbacks? There are some monster league-wide issues that are going to be top of mind next week in Indy. This is shaping up to be an incredibly newsy Combine.
Yeah, I could not agree with you anymore. And I think the first thing you want to see is kind of, what are the Titans doing, right? Because for us, that's the big domino. What are the Titans thinking? And typically we come out of the Combine with a pretty good idea of, what's going to happen at the top of that draft. Because, you've seen a lot of people with most people like both Cam Ward and Shador. I think the kind of in line with our analysis, you and I, based on, the tape study and all of that, is that, Cam's probably the more talented of the two, just from a raw piece of clay standpoint, and is number one on many people's boards, including Greg Cosell, who we'll hear from, I'm sure, at the Combine, and I can't wait to hear that. And then some people prefer Shador, and I think it depends on what your offense is really asking the quarterback to do. In our offensive system, I think Shador could be incredibly effective. And I like him a great deal for our offensive system, even if though he's not maybe as physically gifted in some ways as Cam Ward. He's, by all accounts, at least 99, the vast majority of accounts, the best pure passer in the NFL. The best pure passer in the NFL.
Yeah.
That question, all of a sudden, if you're going to see, let's say we come out there and Tennessee's not taking a quarterback, now it becomes real interesting for the Browns. Real interesting, because now you
control the draft.
You control the draft. And there's a world in which, I think no matter what, whoever your top guy is, that's who you take. I think in that scenario you stay at 2. Now, if you're staying at, because you can't go down to 6, and you really can't go down to 3, because it'll be hard to smokescreen 3, the Giants, if they're taking a quarterback, to be like that they're not taking your guy. But then if they know if you're happy to do a trade, so you really are probably just going to stay there and take your guy.
That's what I hope.
Fine. That's what I would want as well.
Same.
And then, there's been some discussion, obviously, in as many people go through this, where, I don't like this guy at 2, but if we got him at 9, I'd be fine with it. If he's good at 9, he's good at 2.
Same.
It's nonsense.
Ignore that.
By the way,
the
notion that you're trading down from 2 to, let's call it theoretical 9, 8, whatever, whoever's going to 2 is taking a quarterback. So the idea that the quarterback you want is, there's no way the quarterbacks are getting through 1, 2, 3, and 6.
No chance.
At least it doesn't seem that way.
No,
right now,
I
right?
agree with you.
So
yeah,
you're in a position, you've been thrown a life raft, right, at number 2, to get one of these 2 guys, and potentially to have your pick of the 2. If Tennessee really still thinks, they like Levis. I mean, Brian Callahan has been effusive in his praise of Shador as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Liken him to the way that he sees the field and distributes football to Joe Burrow, who he coached, obviously, in Cincinnati, which I don't think anybody would say Shador's got the arm size that Joe Burrow has.
No.
But he's talking about the way that he can, dissect the defense, get the ball out, and be accurate with it. Yeah, Shador can do those things. So there's a lot of intrigue, and I think that's going to the combine for me. It's number one, okay, what is happening with the Tennessee Titans? Number two, okay, who do we like?
Yeah.
Who do we like better? And number three, what's going to be said about Myles? What's going to be said about Myles? And I'm pretty sure I have it right that at the combine is when some kind of just like little conversation spurred Jerry Jeudy becoming a Cleveland Brown. So those type of things happen as well. So there's a lot to go on.
Let's go back to OBJ and Dorsey.
Oh, God, yeah, that's right.
Come get him.
Come get him. Gettleman. Jeez.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
I mean, little things turn into a lot bigger things. And next week is when it starts.
It's just so nice to be through the point where we had nothing.
From a pick standpoint.
First round. From a pick standpoint, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first draft I did here with you was the Jed Wills draft.
Yep.
That was the first one, and we all knew we were taking tack. Was that right?
Yeah.
No, you would have done.
No,
19.
I did the Beckham one, but we gave up our one.
Yeah,
correct. So the first time we had
one.
a one was 20.
Yep.
And that was right before. That was the last thing we all did before COVID hit. But yeah, so that was the Jed Wills. So we knew we were taking a tackle. There wasn't any ambiguity around it. It was which one would fall to us. Which one would we love to have if we could have it? There's a bunch of good ones. That was the first one I did because we traded the pick with Odell. Right?
Yep.
Do I have that right? And because
You're correct.
Your first round pick is Odell Beckham Jr. So we had a pick at the combine, but then we didn't take the pick.
Correct.
That's the way that it worked. So that's this one to be picking second. I mean, you guys did this with the 16 draft with Goff and Wentz. And then you did it in the Myles draft and the Bake draft. So like we were at the top of the draft a lot, and now it's been a minute since we have been. So to be back there will be fun this week. And it is, it's hard to describe to people who haven't been over there, but just like the whole NFL downtown, the most powerful people in the sport, all downtown, all together. And there's really nobody else downtown except NFL people.
Correct.
Like, that's it? There's no civilians?
That's it.
Like, it's just...
So I was explaining to the G-Man.
Yeah.
Like, look, you need to make a list. Who do you want to meet? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to get to know? Great networking opportunity.
Yeah, it's surreal. My wife was saying, well, do you think the boys would ever get anything out of going to that? I'm like, no, they wouldn't. It's meetings and it's lifting. No, it's not a fan experience at all.
They try.
Yeah,
but
it's not. It doesn't. That's not what it is. It's about business getting done, and a downtown in a major Midwestern city is basically roped off for the NFL to conduct business for a week, and so that's what happens over there. We did have some really, unfortunately, troubling breaking news out of the NBA. Did you guys see this Victor Wembanyama story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
Deep
cow!
vein thrombosis.
Shams reported this first about a half hour ago. Wembanyama going to miss the rest of the season with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. The Spurs, he reporting, believe that it's an isolated condition. He has a form of a blood clot in his right shoulder. He is out for the season. That sucks.
Yeah,
it's terrible, and that's something that has ended people's careers. And so you certainly hope that it is an isolated incident. I mean, he was just there in the All-Star weekend.
They went out and made some moves at the break. If I'm correct,
De'Aaron Fox, to play with him, they were going to go make a run at it.
In the league.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's got next. He's probably the most untradeable asset in the whole league. Is him.
Yes.
He's the number one untradeable asset, and I have no idea if they're connected, but you always worry when you see that size. It's just rare for people that size to get through athletic careers healthy. Going back to Ralph Sampson, I mean, there's so many. Greg Oden, there's so many. When you get over that 7 foot, it's just hard.
That's what my uncle, who's Kentucky's team doc.
Yeah,
and he says, he goes, he's talked, he used to talk to Houston's docs when they had Yao Ming, and he's like, they had more sleepless nights just trying to make sure that he didn't bump his head, because a bump on the head at 7'6" changes everything.
Yeah,
they're built differently once you're over 7 feet.
Yeah, That is
So it's
sad.
interesting. Just quick, Google docking, as in doctoring. It's typically something that happens in the lower body. It is not something that typically happens in a shoulder. So I don't know if that is good or worse. It's when a blood clot forms in a large vein, causing swelling, pain, and discoloration. But it says that it is typically in the lower extremities.
I mean, they're pretty adamant here that, all the reporting from Shams that and I don't know what else they would say, but they're like, no big deal, it's going to be fine. But you can't help but think about all of it. So that stinks in the sporting world as you start to get back in action tonight. Cavs back in action tonight after the break. We also have USA-Canada. The Four Nations face-off final is tonight. Most hyped hockey game of this generation. Probably. Probably. The United States hasn't won an Olympic gold medal since 1980. This is not that. It's 4 teams that played round robin and then knockout. The U.S. hasn't won on a world stage at the highest level since 1996. Was the last time that we won on that stage. Here's what I would say. It's very rare in team sports, or even honestly a little bit in Olympic sports, where the United States goes into something as an underdog.
Yep.
There aren't many things that we're not better than everybody. I know that's an incredibly American thing to say, but I don't think there are many things that we're not the best at. And we're not the best at hockey. We're not. We're really good. But Canada's an entirely different level. And we beat them last time out because we were physical and we fought them off the jump and they weren't ready for it. That one was in Montreal. This one tonight is in Boston. So, I think you're going to get a crazy atmosphere. And I think even if you don't like hockey, if you just like competition, I think it's going to be out of this world tonight. But it's rare that you get a root for us as an underdog.
First of all, agreed. That's fun. Second of all, I'm going to read a tweet from J.J. Watt. And he says, it's just incredible how much of a home run Four Nations has been for the NHL and hockey in general. Said, I have friends who have never watched a hockey game in their lives reaching out, asking what the plan is for tonight's game, what food we're ordering, etc. He said, definition of growing the game.
I'd just say this. It's also one of the most calculated risks a professional sports operation has ever done. So can you imagine in the middle of the NFL season if they took, let's say they did you can't do world competition, but let's say they did a Midwest versus South versus California versus Texas, something that would have incredible regional pride for NFL players, and you took a week off in the middle of the season and say, we're going to go a round-robin tournament, Midwest against Florida or the Southeast, and then Texas against California. We'll play a round robin, and the winners play for a championship. Can you imagine NFL owners going, wait, you're going to do what? You're taking Patrick Mahomes off the Kansas City Chiefs and putting him in harm's way? You're taking Myles Garrett off the Cleveland Browns and putting him in harm's way?
It's not an all-star showcase. They're trying to beat each other up.
It's the highest level of hockey, period.
Yes.
And they're playing for their country the way that NFL players would play for their region. Can you imagine, Myles suiting up for Team Texas, and are we to root for Team Midwest, and we're rooting against that's what's happened. So it's a crazy risk. Yes, it's worked. The juice is worth the squeeze. There's no question. I mean, this is a sport that is languishing in terms of its popularity. It needs it. All of them. They need it. Major League Baseball needs it. NBA needs it. Everybody but football needs it. But just the risk of injury is crazy. Because this isn't an all-star game. They're not just skating around, floating around, scoring goals. They're playing for it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I go, G-Man, what are we playing for here? He's
Nobody knows.
There's a trophy. I'm like, okay.
It's for what's on the front of the sweater.
Yeah.
It's for country pride. And
totally.
We beat Canada in the round-robin play.
Yes.
Sidney Crosby is the Canada captain. His record's just outrageous. The last time we played them and that stage was much bigger than this one, was the 2010 Olympics. We played them in Vancouver. It was the gold medal game. It was the last event of the 2010 Winter Olympics, and it went to overtime. Jerome McGinley to Sidney Crosby for the winner. They won the gold medal on his stick in overtime. Probably the crowning – for this, a guy who won 2-3 cups, and probably the crowning achievement of his life was that. That's the last time we've had something. And this isn't that, but this is the closest it's been to that since.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah.
So
Now, over under 14 million tonight. Watch.
Oh, it'll be way less than that. The original one was around 5. The first game was. It was 10 in North America.
Okay.
So I think the whole country of Canada watched, which I think would be the case tonight.
Yeah.
I think if they could get close on a Thursday night, if they could get close to 8 American, I think that'd be nice. That'd be a sweet spot. For all the talk, by the way, of the NBA All-Star Game being a total bomb, USA Canada was vacillated between high 4s and a little over 5 million. The NBA All-Star Game, which was a disaster, still did like 4.8. So like it's still. So when people say it's a disaster, in modern television numbers, it's still fine for them.
Yep.
It's still worth it for them. It's not what it used to be. Obviously, very few things are outside of the Kentucky Derby and football, but everything else has kind of fallen off.
Real quick, dunk contest on Saturday night. The guy that
McClung.
Yeah. I did a promotion once for the Dunk King of Cleveland when I was with ESPN Cleveland.
All right.
Some people will remember this if they listen. Someone wanted to use my car to jump over. Now, I didn't have a great car at the time, so I was like, yeah, whatever. What could go wrong? Landed right on the hood.
Did he really?
Dude, just landed right on my hood.
Don't realize how far that is.
I was like, hey, buddy, I think you missed.
I think you missed on that, bud.
Yeah. I don't think you have the hops that you think you did.
No, McClung did not miss.
No.
But it's also he's a professional dunker.
That's it.
So he's not.
Hey, make your money doing something.
Yeah. This will be fun tonight, though. I think it'll be fun. I got youth hoops, but then once that's done, I'll be checking out the rest of it. I think you will not get 3 fights like you did when they played in the round robin stage. That's not going to happen. If just from a hockey standpoint, USA is going to want to muck it up. They're going to want 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and Canada wants to air it out. They want to skate. They have all the skill in the world, so they want to skate. They had a line that they put out there with Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and Nathan McKinnon. That skill is just impossible to wrap your head around. So my hunch is Canada will win because they typically win these type of games against us, but it'd be a hell of a thing. And it's one of those tickets I'd like to be in the building tonight in Boston.
Yeah.
Like it'd be fun to be in the building.
I think it's going to be a pretty
G-Man
good
says the
atmosphere.
get-in price is $860 right now.
Yeah, that seems about right. And I'm guessing it'll be about 35% Canadians. I think they'll infiltrate pretty well. Yeah. It'll be good. It'll be a fun one tonight. You'll feel the atmosphere through your screen. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Coming up next, our head coach Kevin Stefanski sat down with our buddy Andrew Siciliano. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. We're off and running. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The new Rumpke Recycling Resource Center helps feed the circular economy by supplying Ohio companies and others in the Midwest the material they need to put what you place in your bins to good use. To learn more about the facility and how you can recycle more, visit rumpke.com today. And now here's the voice of the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Siciliano, sitting down with our head coach, Kevin Stefanski, talking about new offensive coordinator Tommy Rees and the quarterback process.
All right, this is cool.
You're down.
We've had players, we've had analysts. We got the head coach of the Cleveland Browns in the Bark Tank, presented by Sugardale. Kevin Stefanski, how are you? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, happy to be in the Bark Tank. Never been in a Bark Tank before.
So Tommy Rees, he's the new offensive coordinator, 32 years old, promoted from tight ends coach after 1 year in the building. Why Tommy Rees?
I think he's the right fit for us, and I've been fortunate enough to know Tommy for a few years, know what he's about, kept in contact with him as he was making his way down to Alabama, obviously calling plays at Notre Dame prior to that. Just thought highly of him as a coach. And then we were very fortunate to be able to add him to our staff last season, coming off his year at Alabama, and just being around him for a year and seeing how he operates, seeing how he works, seeing how he connects to players and coaches, just felt like he was the right fit for what we want to do with our offense.
Pull back the curtain if you wouldn't mind. Like, what's that interview like? Obviously, you interviewed other guys you knew, Clint Kubiak as well, notably there, Darrell Bevel. When you and Tommy sit down, what's that like?
Well, we kind of put him through the paces like we did with all of the other candidates, Andrew. And you mentioned we had some really good guys come in here that we were able to talk to. Very impressive. Learned a lot from each guy, and really put Tommy through the similar paces. Now it's different because he's in the building already, of course, but had him go through the same meetings that everybody else went through. Asked him very similar questions, and a lot of those questions, as you can imagine, some of it is getting to know you, but more of it is, hey, how would you think about this? How would you attack this problem? Take us through your experiences and why that would shape you in some of your decisions. And Tommy, as I think our fans will get to know, he's a young coach. I get that part in age. But sometimes you need to measure experience in something other than years. And I think Tommy, with being the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, calling plays at Notre Dame, calling plays for Nick Saban. I joked that calling plays for Nick Saban is akin to playing point guard for John Chaney. Any college basketball fans out there? That's a lot of experience that you gain. You learn so much in a year like that, and I think that's true with a young coach like Tommy.
And that's good Philly Big Five callback there as well.
I could keep going with these if you want. Yeah. I got more.
No, I'm sure. And look, you learn from the good ones. And Tommy mentioned as well the 2016 Chargers staff today and all those great minds, guys that went on to become head coaches as well. Shane Steichen and Philly, Nick Sirianni as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So you learn a lot. You also learn a lot moving around. Kevin, you played defensive back. You coach quarterbacks. You were in the tight end room. I think you were in the running back room as well in Minnesota. What did Tommy's year in the tight end room do for him? And how important is that? I remember Sean McVay a couple of years ago said, I want to move Thomas Brown from the running back room to the tight end room because one day he is going to get a call for a bigger job, and that gives you a different perspective.
That's what it is, Andrew. It's perspective. And Tommy, as a growing up a quarterback, playing the quarterback position, obviously being in that room, I think there's great value of that tight end room because you're so involved in the pass game, in the run game, in protections. Tommy's never had his hand in the dirt. Neither have I, and that's something that you go in eyes wide open and you even tell your players that. I told the running backs when I got hired in Minnesota and Adrian Peterson's staring back at me, I said, all right, Adrian, here's your career numbers and here are mine, 0, 0, 0. And it's the idea being that, hey, I'm going to help you get better. And by doing that, I'm going to go find those answers. I'm going to work hard at getting those answers for you. So for Tommy, coming from a quarterback perspective and lens, if you will, he was able to broaden his perspective, broaden how he views the game. I would tell you quarterbacks and quarterback coaches think they know everything. And I say that lovingly. And a lot of times they do, but they may draw up a block for the tight end. Hey, you got to cut off this 7 technique and I'm going to draw it on the board here like this. There's one thing to draw it on the board. There's the other thing to take that tight end and say, here's how you're going to do it. This footwork, this step with this foot, this hand placement. There's so much nuance that goes into it. And I think for all coaches, certainly for somebody like Tommy, a younger coach with a quarterback background, I think there's great value in understanding all the nuance that goes to these other positions.
You're taking the play calling back. Explain to me two things. Number one, why? And number two, why you felt the need to come out and just end the suspense and say, guys, I'm doing this.
Just so you'd stop asking me the questions, Andrew, is really what it was. No, listen, and I say this and I mean this sincerely. There are things that are really, really important to playing good offense, and a lot of them have nothing to do with play calling. We have a lot of work to do, Tommy, myself, this offensive staff, in putting back an offense that we feel really good about, and that's going to be sound, and that's going to play to the strengths of our players. There's a lot to do. The play calling piece comes whenever our first game is in September, but I just felt like it's the right thing for us right now. I told the press I reserve the right to change my mind, but I feel like that's the right thing for the team right now.
Kevin, the natural assumption is, because you're calling plays again, that this is going to be a return to the offense that we saw the first 4 years, the offense that went to the playoffs twice. And it's not just Tommy, and it's not just you calling plays. It's Mike Bloomgren, for example, your new offensive line coach. And look, go back to Stanford. I think they ran power 18 times in a row. This speaks to the old offense. Are we wrong by assuming that and connecting those dots?
Listen, I understand the question, and I understand when you say all that. We never want to just go backwards. We want to go forward. So this is not where you just plop a playbook down on the desk and say, hey, dust this off. That's not what we're about. We want to be forward thinking in everything we do. Obviously, add Mike Bloomgren with Tommy's thoughts. There are certain things that we believe in as coaches, but we also know this game's changing. There are so many things that other teams around the league are doing that we feel like fits us, and some of it we haven't done here in the past, and that's okay. That's part of evolution. That's part of adapting in this football game, and I think there's so much when you look around the league. There's so much that changes year to year, certainly 5 years to 5 years. I've told you this before. If you put tape on from 5 years ago, there are going to be things that stand out to you and say, wow, things were different. If you put tape on 10 years ago, there's going to be even more things. So the game's evolving. How they officiate the game is evolving. The players that are coming into this league are evolving. The play style has evolved. And it's not just at the quarterback position. It's in a bunch of different areas. So for us, we certainly want to have that same mindset as we put our offense together. This is the Cleveland Browns offense for the year 2025. And here are the things that we're doing because it fits our players. That's going to be what's most important.
Two more quick things. Tommy made the point, and part of this is the way the younger generation has been brought up. I know we're sounding a little bit old here, but about what is the why? Like for today's younger players, you got to explain why we're doing this. He emphasized that was part of one of his core fundamentals, I guess you could say, today. Was the why, if you're willing to look back, was the why ever in doubt last year? Seemingly some of the offensive linemen or some of the players obviously never even got on the same page or maybe didn't get on the same page. The offense never got there. Was that ever a question now in retrospect?
I think, first of all, change is hard. Any type of change is hard for everybody for whatever the reason. I will tell you my goal, our stated goal, our purpose is making sure that we put together a scheme, an offensive attack that complements this football team. And certainly we didn't do that last season, and that falls on my shoulders. And I accept that. I own that. I also will fix that.
Tommy said that his number one, as we go down this path here, remaking the quarterback room, as Andrew said, is the goal of the next couple of months. That the number one thing he looks for in a quarterback is processing. Kevin, it's a long road, I know, between the start of the new league year and the draft in Green Bay. But when you look at quarterbacks, what's the number one thing that you must have? What do you look at first?
It's a great question. Something we talk about all the time, Andrew, those traits that these quarterbacks have and which one is the most important. How do you weigh it? Obviously decision-making and processing is a huge part of this because the quarterback's making those decisions 40 times a game sometimes, whether it's run decisions, pass decisions, you name it. So that's certainly a big piece of this. There's so much of the physical tools that we can talk through with accuracy probably being the top of the list, which we know. And then, again, look at the playmaking around our league that's happening at the quarterback position. So it's hard for me to single one thing other than to tell you, yes, decision-making is important. And I'd say physical skills, accuracy is super important. And then, as we all know, that person leading that huddle and breaking the huddle and being behind the center and leading the team out of the tunnel, all those things that come with that position, all those intangibles, the things that are easy to talk about, hard to measure, that factors into it as well.
Hopefully at some point you get an off season, but I know that's not coming anytime soon. Kevin, thanks for doing the Bark Tank.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew.
All right, there you go, Andrew and Coach in the Bark Tank. Coming up next, go around the sports world, especially and specifically some college football news from yesterday, the future of that sport. We'll get to that coming up next. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today and get $50 in bonus bets when you place your first wager of $10 or more. Ballybet is official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. We had Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, and Greg Sankey, the Southeastern Conference commissioner. They met yesterday in New Orleans. essentially they're deciding the future of the sport, fellas, is what they're going for here. So the one thing that got a lot of the headlines was this seeding them 1 through 12 for next year. So they need unanimous votes from the other conferences to do that. They're not going to get that unless they threaten them with, if you don't vote for this, then we will exclude you from the playoff going forward, which those two conferences certainly have the power to do. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer. The real things that they're working on is, do we go to 14 or do we go to 16? Automatic bids for R2 League. I think the most jarring thing for me that came out of it was at the Big Ten's behest, and then the SEC kind of begrudgingly and then inevitably kind of came along, of taking championship weekend in college football and using it as a play-in game. So the Big Ten is talking about taking instead of playing a Big Ten championship game between the 1 and the 2 seed in the league, the 3 would play the 6, the 4 would play the 5, and those 2 winners would make the college football playoff. So the 1 and the 2 would be in already, and then that would determine the 3 and the 4. The SEC said, hold our beer. We'll go 1 through 8, 2 through 7, 3 and 6, 4 against 5, and play 4 games. I think all of this is a disaster. I think adding more high-leveraged games to 18 to 22-year-olds' bodies is absurd. I understand that they're trying to chase the ever-mighty dollar as far as it will take them, but there has got to reach a point where they've done enough. And you start playing adding a 5th high-leveraged game for the top 8 teams in your league, in addition to 4 games you're going to play in a playoff. That's the National Football League, is what that is. It's, to me, I think it's gimmicky. I think it's nonsensical. I think they should do away with conference championship games anyway, and I think eventually they'll get there, but it's not coming right now. So that was the most radical thing that came of it.
Interesting. What did you think of staying in college football? College football, Nate noticed today that Texas is doing away with its spring game and is doing like NFL-style OTAs.
So first one to mention this was Matt Rule, who's the head coach at Nebraska.
I was going to say they got rid of it too.
Yeah, well, so does Ohio State. So did USC. So Rule was the first one to do it, and what he said is it's not worth it for us to showcase our young players for other people to come poach in a free transfer. So Ohio State said, we're going to do some variation of a spring game, not a true game. We're going to do something, but it's going to be different.
Got it.
USC said similar. We're going to do something, but it's going to do different. Sark's the first one today who said, yeah, we're not doing it. They're all going to transition to an NFL OTAs type experience. Now, the thing that is still critical, it's honestly, buddy, it's the same beef that NFL has with trying to develop young players is they don't play enough games. That's the beef in college football too. Like, they actually need some of the young guys to get a lot of reps, but they don't need to see anything more out of Jeremiah Smith. So I think it'll be like the Hoff. Like, I think Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, they're like the Hoff. Like, they're there. Oh, you'll be okay. Fine, just hang out, ride a bike.
We're going to give you a rep every fourth or fifth snap.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're going to try to do. Here's the thing, though. At a place like Texas, Ohio State, USC, especially the first 2, even Nebraska, you can't totally not do the spring game. Ohio State charges between, I don't know what they charge now, but it used to be $5 or $10 to go into the game.
Yep.
Times that times 100,000. You need that.
Yeah.
They need the money. People think they're swimming in gold coins down there. They're not. They're not. They need the money.
Scrooge McDuck?
They're not.
Love it.
They're not. So they have to find every avenue. I mean, they're doing stuff at the shoe needs a $300 million renovation to it. They're putting a restaurant in the shoe so that they have to find ways to monetize the facilities.
Sure.
Because the people that used to pay for those type of renovations are now paying for the roster. I mean, did you see the headline today? Carson Beck, who's dating that Hannah Cavender, his 2 Ferrari. He had a Lamborghini and a Mercedes stolen from him, and her Range Rover got stolen from their house. This is a college athlete who has a G-Wagon and a Lamborghini, who's making $4 million playing quarterback at Miami.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
Well, that's who's the Buckeye wide receiver that's at the auto show this weekend? Carnell Tate. Is that which dealership?
Yeah, he does a deal with a dealership down in Columbus.
Yeah, he's representing some deal. I mean, I know like the Hoff's doing one next week.
I mean, he's a Hoff,
Yeah,
not a 20-year-old.
correct. But what do you bet that kid's getting paid?
At least that is
Comparable
at
cash.
least that is true NIL.
Yeah.
That is a company saying, "Hey, we see value in you. We want you to represent us." The other is just pay for play. It's just
Yeah.
inducements, is what the rest of it is. It's not what NIL was supposed to be.
So so Ohio Stadium, you're talking a $300 million renovation.
I mean, that's my numbers, not theirs.
Yeah,
but that's what
correct.
I think they need. Yeah,
we're just throwing it out there. But is that like? Are you putting suites in? Are you?
they got to
putting-
go. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know when's the last time you've been down there, but they did add suites, I guess, in what amounts to the northwest corner.
Yes.
They added a bunch of new suites
Yep.
down there. I think inevitably they're going to have to do suites in all of B-Deck, and they probably should. A lot of those tickets are terrible seats.
Yeah.
So they need to do that. They have to connect the south stands to the rest of the stadium. It's ridiculous that you go to a game there and you can't, if you're in the south stands, you can't go in the rest of the stadium. They need to put seat backs at every seat.
That would be nice.
You can't charge $160 face value to go to games and then have to sit on a metal bleacher or stand the whole time. It doesn't work.
Yeah, those bleachers aren't great.
The lights are way past due. The speaker system is clown show. The jumbotron is terrible. I mean, that's a lot. They got bathrooms they got to renovate. I mean, you got porta potties in the main concourses. I mean, you can't.
I
It's
remember
too
when
much.
I went to, and this was years ago, so I probably, I'm sure, is maybe changed or is maybe somewhat upgraded since then, but to the game that was the crazy Michigan game in Ohio State where it got the fourth down inches.
I think that's
that one.
16.
16-ish.
Yeah.
And I
16,
was stunned at the state of the facilities, like flabbergasted.
It's not great.
It's been a long time since I'd gone in a non-media. I'd only gone once before in a non-media capacity.
Yeah.
All the other times, like I walk across the field, take the press box up, and go get my seat in
Sure.
the press box. That's great. But like when you see like how the average fan has to live there,
Oh, my goodness.
and if it's not the Michigan game and it's not Texas, they play Grambling and like Marshall or Kent State. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is not what I'm paying for. So they need, and they know it. Ross Bjork, the new AD down there, he knows it. So they've got a lot that they've got to do on that side of things. All right, second hour of the program coming up next. Our AFC team preview will center on the Los Angeles Chargers. So we will take a look at the Chargers on a deep dive coming up in this hour. We'll also hit the mailbag. In fact, that is coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For another season from your favorite four-legged companion, year 3 of Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. Time for the mailbag. It's presented by the Cross Country Mortgage Company, official mortgage partner of your Cleveland Browns when it comes to financing. They're always going to get you home. Visit ccm.com today. Equal housing opportunity, NMLS 3029. Hello, Gibby.
Gentlemen, hi. You can tweet your questions to us at Browns_daily. Moving up the mailbag a few minutes here today due to our guest, Joe Reedy, joining us at 2:30 to talk Los Angeles.
Did you know I knew Joe when he was in Cincinnati?
Correct. That's what I told G-Man. I go, I've given these all to G-Man. I go,
Yeah.
Book, I'm not going to direct you.
Yeah.
And he's like, I booked a guy, Joe Reedy. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Love Reedy.
He was in Cincinnati, and I used to talk with him about bourbon and Kentucky Derby because he loved both. And then he went to Tallahassee, I think. Didn't he have a stop in Tallahassee?
I thought he went to Florida.
Yeah, I think he was in Tallahassee, like an AP in Tallahassee. Yeah, good dude.
He did some work like covering the Cavs for a while up there, too.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but looking forward to having him on. Preston tweets at the show, fact and question time.
Oh, baby.
Fact, staring at the sun can blind you. Had to redeem myself from last week.
That is quite true. That is definitely
That is 100% true. Question, I just got a new job and need advice. What are your quarter zip, vest, and business casual dress suggestions? Brands, looks, etc. You would have to give up your secrets there, gentlemen.
I think the key thing on business casual is you got to get a feel for that office, man.
Yeah.
You got to get a feel for that office. I would overdress rather than underdress.
Yeah, you're new.
You're new.
I don't think you can ever go wrong in a quarter zip.
Yeah.
You're wearing a quarter zip over some red Vanleys and you throw a vest on that thing. You can't ever go wrong with that.
I think you're also going to want to go with, I would probably, if I was just feeling it out, I would probably go collared shirt under the quarter zip, especially in layering season. I would add that collared shirt element to it.
Collared shirt under the quarter zip?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would layer it
for sure.
Jim Nance style.
I don't know if I've ever done that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the dressed up quarter zip is the dress shirt underneath the quarter zip. You could even, if it's, and then if you needed to, if all of a sudden people are wearing ties, you throw a tie on and then you're all set. Then you're good to go. So I would go collared shirt under quarter zip until I figure it out.
I can't do the vest thing. I can do the quarter zip thing, but the vest
I
thing
finally got our
looks
boy. Look I reeled him
I'm
in.
at the Titanic sinking.
No, I reeled him in. I reeled Zagur in. He's in now.
Oh, I know he's in.
Looks great.
Browns
what?
back.
It's so functional.
The vests?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
vest's
vest
great.
thing, I just
So
can't.
functional.
It looks like a life preserver on me.
No, it does not. You get a little bit of warmth.
Says
and
you.
You have to take it off and on.
Keeps
You're
the
safe.
core warm, dude.
Core warm is all you need.
Question for Z from Browns backers North Jersey. What's more annoying, dealing with the current state of people suggesting not to take one of the QBs at 2, or
Yes.
pre-2018 draft when people suggested
Also, yes.
drafting Saquon at 1 and whatever quarterback was available at 4?
That's when we had to ban people. We
did.
That's when we were taking callers. There was a guy down in Texas. I don't remember his name, but there was a guy in Texas I was brawling with all the time, and he had to give a public apology to me after the draft played out, which was, I thought, just and fair.
The only way he was allowed back on. True story, G.
Yeah, listen, I'm well on record. I like both of these quarterbacks. I think that the Browns need to decide if they have the opportunity at both of them. What they prioritize more. Cam is more toolsy, probably more big play threat, and then Shador is just tough, accurate, great decision maker, natural thrower of the football, pure passer, just great passing instincts, ability to throw guys open, throw with anticipation. So you've got two great options, and I've said that from the beginning. You pick second, and there are two of them. So there you go, guaranteed one of them, which is a great thing for the Cleveland Browns. But I still think if we're looking through the lens of just what we're doing now, I like Shador a little bit more. I think he's maybe a little bit more ready to step in and run this offense. If you're looking at just overall, just talent, the best piece of clay, I think it's Cam. And I've said that, consistently. So I think Browns are in a great spot. The idea that you got to take a quarterback. You got to do it. I mean, it's just, to me, that is everything. And I think that it finally dawned on me, and I've said it before, and you agreed with this as well, that this asset has to turn in that quarterback. Now, I guess there's a circuitous route to that somehow.
Yeah.
But the easiest one is just to pick one right there at number 2. But the truth is, as I said, there aren't safer picks. A center, I guess, in the first round is probably the safest pick, but we're not doing that at number 2. And So the only sure thing in the league is that if you don't have a quarterback, you cannot win consistently. And that has been the problem of this franchise for decades.
Yeah.
Since Bernie, we have not had a quarterback. And by the way, we've only drafted 2 in the top 10.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, that's it. It's crazy. By the way, I have a question for the Browns backers of North Jersey. What is the Tony Soprano sandwich order at Satriali's? Like, what is his order? And I feel like they would know.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I want to know what that order is. I mean, he always talked about, I'm sure that there's some mortadella or whatever, but I want to know, like, what all is on that. Like, what is the quintessential Soprano sandwich at Satriali's? That's what I want to know from the
All right, Browns backers
of
North Jersey. I look forward to that response. I have a question here. I have a tweet. I had to do a double take. A young lady by the name of Sophie has tweeted it at the show. Hi, G-Man's girlfriend here.
What?
How did you guys meet your wives?
What?
That's
Is
right.
do we verify this is G-Man's girlfriend?
It is.
Why have we not heard about this?
Yeah.
She's an up-and-coming journalist in Indy, by the way.
Wow.
I mean, this
Immediate follow.
Immediate follow. That's kind of weird.
Look
Why?
at
She follows me. I can't follow her back.
Okay. I'm just making
G-Man has got G-Man's girlfriend.
She's gonna
G-Man,
give
are
us
you going to
windows
see
into
your
G-Man's
girlfriend in
life that
Indy?
we don't get.
Yeah, he was just in Indy for the weekend for Valentine's Day. He's like, no, I'm going back.
What in the hell?
G-Man.
Oh my
How
gosh!
about it?
How about it?
Sophie? I'll answer your question. I was in the way of my wife buying shots of tequila for her friend's birthday at a
The
bar.
shot queen,
That's right,
quite literally.
literally.
I was in. My wife and I were in local television in Tallahassee. She was at the ABC affiliate. I was at CBS, and in those days, majority of the people who worked at those stations were all in their early 20s. It was a starter kind of market, and the only people you knew was the people who were in the other stations. And so we were really good friends for a long time, and then away we went.
The Cleveland Browns, baby.
The Cleveland Browns.
That's right.
Richie Fox.
Hey,
Tweets at the show.
Ned.
the great Ned.
For funsies, would you consider doing a mock draft, but the draft order was inverted, i.e. Philly would be picking number 1 overall? I think it'd be very interesting to see how it would shake out with that approach.
No,
I would not like that.
No interest.
sorry, Ned. No.
Well, I think what he's getting at is that would be the interesting thing would be that, a lot of the teams down there wouldn't be taking quarterbacks. So you'd have you couldn't even do a mock draft. It would just be a trade. And the crazy thing about it is the best teams in the league would get multiple picks to let the bad teams or the teams that are needing quarterbacks come try and get one.
Yep.
Richie, this is a good one. Who have been some of your favorite Browns that were drafted during your time on Browns Daily? A Mount Rushmore, if you will. Didn't have to be a stud player either.
Drafted, so that takes Jarvis out of it. That takes Money Mitch out of it. Kirko a little.
Browns players that were drafted by the Browns.
Yeah.
While we've done
we
this
just
show.
enjoyed as people.
Yeah. I mean, I love Talk. I love seeing Talk. Anytime he would
Bring
come
him back,
in.
by the way. Release yesterday. Bring him back.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved having him
Yeah.
around. He was great.
Yeah, Taki would be up there. Christian Kirksey'd be up there.
Yeah, it was
Bitonio?
the end of
Bitonio was
Kirko for
Antonio.
me.
Who?
I said Kirko was kind of the beginning. His end was my beginning, so I didn't have a whole lot of overlap with him.
MJ?
Joe Thomas.
MJ for sure. Yeah,
Well,
Hoff,
no, but
but
Joe
that was
wasn't-
post-career. I mean, that for me, it was
we've been
post-career.
doing Browns Daily.
I was doing Browns Daily with the Hoff.
Not when
We.
Joe Thomas was drafted.
Oh,
Yeah, since
another
drafted.
I know you're sick. I'm going to give you a pass. Tell Nana the stream's working just fine.
I always like
F.J.
DPJ.
Emerson, Delpitz.
DPJ was
Donovan
always fun to have in.
Peoples-Jones was
I
a
always
great
liked
one.
him. Nick Harris is a cool kid.
Nick Harris is great.
DeJuan Jones is great.
DeJuan.
DeJuan's awesome.
He's a fast riser. DeJuan
Yeah.
Jones.
I mean,
Uncle
believe it or
Bronco
not,
Bill.
like we used to have Nick Chubb in here from time to time.
Talking burgers.
He would come in and talk
Chief.
burgers. Yeah.
Chief.
Oh, Chief in the beginning especially was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Signed our ball. Stole one ball and then replaced it with one with his
Replaced it with
own.
an autographed one.
With an autographed one, which was great. Yeah, there's been a lot of good ones.
What are your route combinations that make up your favorite pass play on College Football 25 or Madden? Mine is easily PA Power O.
There's a play in, I don't know the name of it. It's in a 5-wide set at Colorado that has they're the most fun team to play with on NCAA that I've played with, that has Travis Hunter in the slot and then has the horn on the outside, and Hunter runs he kind of like breaks out right away and then cuts it up the sideline. So you have two options to hit him. It's kind of like a slot fade. So you can kind of hit him right away on the out, and then he turns it up and no one can hang with him. And then you have Horn running like a post deep, and that's just bombs over Baghdad. Like there's something on the other side too. I want to say there's like a jerk route from the tight end on the other side. So if somehow that's all covered, then you have that on the other side.
That check down. Yeah. I just like to. I usually end up. There are very few plays that I run straight out of the playbooks. I'll always hot route because I like to have. I love having a seam, especially if middle field's open. You got to have a seam route. If it's a cover 3, then I like to try to attack, by clearing out the outside corner and then throwing either a flag or a deep out underneath it. And then I always like to have a drag as a safety route, or just a little kind of a stick route just as a safety route. But I always try to go read it high to low, baby. If it's open, if it's high, let it fly, and if not, then you come down, take your check down, and move on. Little halfback option. I always like a halfback.
By the way,
option
I'm just
as
throwing it out there because I just want to make sure. I think I'm correct on this. College football is going to continue for a while, right? They have a contract. EA's going to keep putting it out?
Yeah, they got a new one. Yep.
Okay. All right. I didn't know it had been announced. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
no, they got.
I wasn't
another-
sure if it was a one-time.
Dude,
or-
it was the biggest. It was the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, dominated Madden.
well. Oh, yeah.
We did get a. This is from Greg Groundskeeper.
We got a bunch from Bobby.
He did get me a Tony Soprano sandwich, and it's vinegar peppers, so I've never had this sandwich. Gabagool, vinegar peppers, provolone, little olive oil, and that's it. I don't know if I've ever had vinegar peppers on a sandwich. Imagine they're good.
Okay. I mean, it would. I'm sure it would be. By the way, I have a quick update for you on the. I mentioned I was going to tell you this on the Nana Severance saga.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's awesome.
Sorry.
Good.
So I kind of figured out exactly what happened. So this is what she did, which is, this made me even madder last night. And she is a wonderful lady, Nana, wonderful house manager, wonderful Nana, all of it. She's the best. But for as much as I love Severance, for her to do what she did, the skip ahead thing, that happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, shame on you not watching the preview, previously on. But it happens, and I can see on that show some episodes are very different than the episode that just preceded it. So she was probably, we'll call it on like episode 5 of season 1.
Okay.
And there are 9 episodes of season 1, and I've been on record, and they've even told her that I said the season finale is one of the best episodes of TV I've ever watched.
Yeah.
So then she jumps ahead and watches on a one-off season 2, episode 5. And I think there are only 6 of
Just randomly?
Because that's where we were, Miss K and I.
Okay.
And so remember, she was accessing it through our account
So,
at the house. So if that happens and you're like, oh man, I just watched the wrong episode.
Sure.
What would you do after that?
I would go back from where I was originally supposed to be, and I would watch, and it would suck, but I would just. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I missed, and so I would watch it. I would watch all the stuff I missed.
Couldn't agree with you more. Do you know what she did?
Oh, God.
She went from that episode, didn't go back to where she was in season 1. She went straight to the finale of season 1.
Oh, my God.
Because she's like, I figured it would catch me up on everything I missed. I said,
Oh, no.
I said, if you just want to
Nana.
know what happens, read the spoilers.
All
It's
right.
about the journey.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think if she's going to be What did you call her? Your house manager?
She's a great many things. Nana, mother, house manager.
House manager, yeah. Like, but if I do some renovations and I need a house manager / Buddy Garrity watcher, and she's game for it, in exchange, I can be her television liaison.
Sherpa.
Yeah, Sherpa guide. When you need help, I'll help you, Nana. And I could have gotten you in the right spot. Like, that was not the right choice.
I said, why? When you should just told. She's like, she didn't want to tell me at first. I said, well, then you just like compounded the mistake.
You did. You definitely compounded the mistake.
So I said, but what's crazy about it? There's no way to even understand what's going on in the season finale unless you watch the lead up to it.
No,
and it removes the power of
course,
one of the most gripping
she's
episodes
basically
of television ever.
Botched the whole thing. She's botched
the crazy
Severance.
Thing is, so she did, and what's so sad about it is, I think the 2 episodes that she's referenced that she watched out of order now are the 2 best that I've seen so far.
Oh no.
The one that she watched in season 2, which was kind of like a mid-season finale in a way, because it has an unbelievable thing that happens in it. And then going from that and just being like, I'm just going to go straight to the season 1 finale? Like, could you imagine?
No, I can't. No, I could have helped.
It would be like watching a random episode in the middle of season 4 of Game of Thrones when you were like at episode 5 of season 3.
Yeah.
And then just skipping and being like, you know what? Instead of seeing what's going on, I'm just going to go right to the Red Wedding.
Going right to the end.
Context. Yeah.
It's
very sad. And it's sad because she can never unsee what she's seen.
No, that's why she should have just went back to where she was and did the best she could.
Of course.
Yeah, that's all
she
you
said
gotta
she's
do.
gone back and watched the one she skipped. She's enjoying it so much. I know, but it's just never the same. It's like you can only watch you can only have seen the Red Wedding once.
This is a great one from Bobby for you, Z. If eating 12 hard-boiled eggs would win the Browns a Super Bowl, would you do it?
Yes. That is love.
Could you do it without
a reversal of fortune?
Showing up like Beamsy.
There's nothing that says anything about that.
What would be worse, a hard-boiled egg or a deviled egg?
I had some great deviled eggs down in Florida.
Which is your apex egg?
They were smoked.
What's the opposite of that?
What's the opposite?
What is the worst form of egg for you to consume?
Hard-boiled.
More than deviled? Because deviled also has mayo.
Isn't that just a hard-boiled egg with like some stuff on it?
No, you just take the yolk and then you ground it up with mayo and mustard and paprika and then replace it. That's a deviled egg.
I mean, it's still hard-boiled egg to me. Gross. At least that, like, they turn the yolk into some type of like a mousse. At least it looks like, as opposed to a nasty little like yellow ball. Am I wrong? Is that what it looks like?
No, it does look like mousse. I just never heard hard-boiled egg referred to that way as a mousse.
Well, they put like a mousse on a hard-boiled egg. That's what I always thought it was.
This is like a fear factory.
Yeah.
I love it.
The egg reflex.
I think that would be the worst thing that I could eat outside of feces, and I would do it for the Cleveland Browns.
I know that you would. All right, Joe Reedy is going to join us from Los Angeles, where I'm guessing the weather is much, much nicer. We will get a read on the Los Angeles Chargers coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. We continue our off-season preview, past season review around the AFC. We are in Los Angeles. We are there on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. He is Joe Reedy of the Associated Press. He joins us there. Joe was in Cincinnati for a while. I remember talking to you years ago on that front, my friend, and talking a little bit about the Kentucky Derby and a little whiskey, probably a little bit too. But it's a pleasure talking to you about the Chargers. So let's get right into it. Biggest difference Jim Harbaugh provided to the Chargers in year one was what?
I think confidence and just faith in the process. I think we saw with the 49ers and also what he did at Michigan, quickly turning things around and making, giving that belief and, being authentic in his message. I mean, it may be unconventional at times. I think players still talk about his first day of training camp speech where he recounted the day he was born. But the message resonates, and he has faith and everything too. I mean, this was a guy who also the week after facing Cleveland, I forget who they played after that, played the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald in the locker room after the game, because the night before his message was he wanted his team to be the Storm and inflict pressure on the boat and everything. So to use a song that is older than most of the players in his locker room. The message works, and I think at the beginning of the season I thought 9 or 10 wins was very much an offering for them, just looking at Jim's turnaround and everything. But to get 11 and be in contention is a good start for them. Now they've got to make more games in year two.
So that is the honeymoon portion of it, and everything they did, I think, with the idea of we're building towards something now. They obviously have a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. So now how do you become a team who can track down the Kansas Cities, who can track down Buffalo and those type of teams, Baltimore? What does their offseason checklist / wish list look like, Joe?
I think this offseason they've got to focus on the offensive side of the ball. The receivers, for lack of star power and everything, exceeded expectations last year. When you look at it, Quentin Johnson, first round pick from 2023, became a little bit more consistent. I think still has some drop issues, but played well, but they still need another game-breaking receiver to pair with Johnson and Ladd McConkey. There's not a lot of depth there. Pass-catching tight end would be good too, which this team has lacked for a couple seasons. But I think that most of the mock drafts have paired the Chargers with Loveland, who Harbaugh has plenty of experience with out of Michigan, which in the 20s I think would be a good pick. And then running back, I think too, if they can re-sign J.K. Dobbins, who had a solid season because Gus Edwards struggled, I think that would definitely help there too. And I think try to build some depth on defense also.
How realistic is getting Dobbins back after the big bounce back year for him?
I think it's realistic. He missed 4 games due to the knee injury last year. I don't know if the rest of the league is sold on whether he can be a full season running back or not. But he got close to 1,000 yards rushing, over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Definitely proved he could be that big play back. Probably still some injury questions with him, but if you can get a 1 to 2 year deal with him, and with the salary cap numbers up there too, I think it's very realistic to be done.
Joe, what do you sense is going to happen with Joey Bosa?
Well, I mean, probably the biggest question on the defensive side is you got Joey Bosa going into the last year of his deal, and for the first time in 11 seasons, Khalil Mack is an unrestricted free agent. I mean, Khalil might set the record now in the free agency era for this being the first time to go into free agency. I think one of them will be back. If I had to put my money down at the moment, I would put Mack ahead of Bosa right now. Joey will be going into his 10th season with the Chargers, but they reworked the contract last year. I think they would want to rework it again this year, and just with the injury problems that he's had and everything, and with some of the depth they've got at rush linebacker. I mean, if you can get Mack back for a year or two and pair him with Tuapolo, I think that's a pretty good rush combination. But I can't see both of them back this year. Probably one of the two.
Joe, Justin Herbert is one of those guys that we've loved for a long time, and you love everything you see about him, but he's also now reached the prime of his career, and you talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of it's got to be offense, that's got to be the way that they're thinking. How has he handled, as you've been along for the ride, from what he was as a rookie to now being in the prime of his career, and probably like the other guys in that class, whether it's Burrow, who made the rise all the way to the Super Bowl, or even Tua from the standpoint. But like I'm sure there's anxiousness of like, all right, I got to win now. What can you tell me about Herbert and just what he is as a franchise quarterback and how he has handled the early part of his career?
He's very level-headed. I think he's more comfortable with himself now. And I think the biggest key for Justin Herbert going into his offseason is this is going to be only the second time in 6 NFL seasons that the same offensive coordinator returns, and he doesn't have to learn a new offensive system. Greg Roman preaches that physical style ball and being more balanced, and I think Justin is bought into that. And you look at all of Herbert's seasons. I know the numbers were down from what we've seen from Justin in the past, but I think it was one of his best seasons ever. The interception numbers were way down until the playoffs. He was able to, there were problems with the offensive line with pass protection at times, but he learned more when to get rid of the ball. And I think having a running game and a balanced offense definitely helps him. And also that downfield pass game, which we saw flashes come back last year because it was more balanced. And he's made great improvements in play action too. He was one of the top players in the league last year in play action. Has done better, disguising run and pass, and I think that's opened the downfield pass game too. But I think just mentally, being more confident in itself and becoming more of a leader, which Harbaugh's brought out of him too, telling him to be more vocal and tell his stories or tell how he's feeling. So I think that's a pretty good combination there.
Jim is so great at emboldening his players. I mean, they just come out chesty with him. I mean, he pushes it through him. It's something that's happened every stop he's been at. In terms of that offseason checklist we talked about, how close are they to being in that conversation? With 11-6, obviously you got Kansas City in the division, but to getting to that Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore level, how close are they? What are what needs to get them there absolutely in your mind?
I think definitely adding more playmakers on offense, adding a bit more depth on defense, which, the years under Tom Telesco's GM, this team lacked depth on the lines. And Joe Ortiz in his first year with that Baltimore system, also working with Jim Harbaugh, they've been able to do that. And I think Joe Ortiz, too, was unable to unearth some guys. Not only in the draft class was very productive, but also some of his August signings. You look at a Pierre Tart trading for an Elijah Molden, just bringing those guys in and being quick fits. I think that Jim and Joe are very wedded in the philosophy and players that they are looking for. and that has helped. So I think another year of a strong draft class, having some salary cap room to add a couple veterans. I think at center they might need an upgrade too. I've seen kind of links that if they could get Ryan Kelly from Indianapolis, that would be a good move. So, keep adding and keep building and, see where it goes. Because last year it was an easy schedule, but they won the games that they were supposed to and got a couple, against over 500 teams. So things are on schedule so far, but it's a year-to-year league, but we'll see in year 2 what he can do.
Joe, and one off-field question for you. Obviously, it was a challenge moving that team up from San Diego and all of that. They've been in L.A. for a long time now, but I'm certain it's always been a challenge in terms of fans. Is that coming around? Like, are they finally building a solid fan base in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I think it's coming around, and it's also a case with the Rams too. I mean, yes, the Rams have been successful on the field, but if you look at when Philadelphia, Dallas, definitely San Francisco, those teams come in, it's going to be a little more stilted to the visiting fans, not only with the Chargers, but with the Rams too. I think the first 2-3 years maybe that the Rams were at SoFi, it wasn't an attractive home schedule for those out-of-town or out-of-market teams, but it definitely, I think we've definitely seen maybe the last year or two when teams have come in for Rams games, it's been a little more balanced. But I think the Chargers have done a pretty good job marketing in terms of getting more fans, and also with having Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, it doesn't hurt either.
Those two things both help a great deal. Thank you so much for your time, Joe, and your expertise and giving us a little bit of it today.
No problem, guys. See you soon.
All right, there he is, Joe Reedy, the AP in Los Angeles, joining the show on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. Gibby, do you want to do categories now, or do you want to take a break and then do them after?
We can do so much more to come.
So much more to come. All right, so we'll do all of that. Coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk and Elk Serious Lawyers, serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk and Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. You had Joe Reedy on there. Yeah, they're close. They're very close. The thing that's pretty crazy is they were as talented as that they've been, and they kind of wasted that window that the Chiefs took advantage of having Mahomes on a doable contract with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and won a Super Bowl there. The Chargers blew that. I mean, they had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Herbert, Bosa, all of them in their prime, Derwin James, all of them, and they blew that window. So they're now going into that second stage of we've got to get rid of some of these old guys. I've already got rid of a lot of them, and also now take advantage of Herbert and the fact but because he's still there, they can do that while winning 11 games.
Yeah. Yeah. And they got the coach. They feel good about that. Chargers are a fun team. It's just tough division, tough conference. And it goes back to they've got a guy that absolutely is the guy in Justin Herbert.
Yes.
But you have nothing without that. Having that gives you a chance, but it still guarantees nothing. I mean, Joe Burrow didn't even make the playoffs this year.
No.
But nobody wanted them in the playoffs, and they will be back. But it is, I like this Chargers team. They got to get him some weapons, though. They got to keep getting him weapons.
All right, let's hit some of the categories on the Chargers. Your favorite Chargers uniform?
Duh.
Do you go like powder blue over white or powder blue over gold?
Powder blue over white.
Yeah, they're both great.
Powder blue over white.
Powder blue over white's unbelievable. It's so crazy they waited so long to wear them, and it basically took like no one in L.A. paying attention to them finally to like say, okay, fine, we'll wear them. But they're just perfect. Would you host L.A. Chargers daily?
Yeah.
I mean, that's especially on a day like today after a month like this.
Sure.
Yeah.
LACD. Yeah.
LACD, let's go, baby.
It seems great.
LAX grade.
So I actually have had better on time in and out of LAX than really anywhere.
I'm going to tell you
recently.
something. I've never had a problem at LAX. Now, I'm flying into LAX at the end of March, so we'll see. So knock on plexiglass. But anytime I've ever flown through LAX, whether it be to Hawaii or Bora Bora, wherever, like, great. Flown there direct, great.
Solid Bora Bora drop.
It's been a minute. It's always been really smooth.
Yeah.
I've had no problems at LAX.
No, same.
None. All right, which Charger player would you want on our team?
Justin Herbert.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Justin Herbert. I love him.
That guy paratroops in here?
Yeah, we have so many great clips that we could play off of CBD welcoming him there with all the things, all the praise that we've lauded on him. Modes was all over him because he was an Oregon guy.
Modes loved him.
I think his daughter was there at Oregon at the same time.
Yeah.
And, he loved Herbert from day. He was like, we need Justin Herbert. I'm like, I don't disagree.
I just don't know if we're going to be able to get him. I don't know that I thought coming out of Oregon he would be like
minute
this.
45.
But, man, he's awesome.
He's good. Was he taken one before or one after Tua?
After.
That's what I thought. Wild.
Yeah. It was clear that he was going to I believe he was going to the Chargers and Tua was going to the Dolphins. What grade would you give a road trip to Los Angeles? What's a flight? But I would give it an A+.
A+.
Yeah. The only thing
love
tricky
LA.
is the road, or the traffic a little bit, but you're not commuting on the 405, so you'll be all right.
1 minute.
Budget trip.
What's that?
It's not a trip where you're going to go be a baller on a budget.
No.
Not a budget trip.
No, not to do it
it's
right.
It's a pricey trip. Yeah, it's a pricey trip.
All right, favorite Charger of all time? They've had some cool ones.
So LaDainian popped into my mind. I loved Sean Marabin for a while when he was doing Lights Out. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I'm going to have to go with, because he went to my dad's high school, and my father claims he's thrown him a pass.
30.
I missed that. Who was it?
Dan Fouts.
Danny Fouts. Your pops, Danny Fouts. I had a Danny Fouts jersey as a kid.
Dan Fouts, St. Ignatius. Same with my dad.
That's
Ignatius
unreal.
In San Francisco, California.
The other one I would say is Seau. Seau was awesome.
Junior Seau.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Your Chargers offseason preview and review. We are back tomorrow for more fun. The next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.